So you guys want to know what's really funny? In this clip, Hasan is really mad at Nux. That's funny. Okay, but what's funnier is apparently if you type Nuxanor, maybe also Nux, maybe Nuxtaku, I don't know, but definitely Nuxanor at the very least, it seems like your comment will be withheld in the chat of Hasan over on Twitch. As we can see, he seems to be responding to this message he got on Twitch that says, "So I have to try. Nuxanor said if anyone says his name in your chat, they would be banned. So let's try it." Right above that, Automod says held a message for using channel block terms, pending review by moderators. Nuxanor blocked term, huh?
You should be embarrassed. You should be embarrassed of getting to be openly getting directives from a fucking anime VTuber that every other VTuber hates because he's a gross, lolly enjoying, genocide enjoying loser. Like, every time you come in here, you're basically saying, "Hey, man, I'm here on behalf of a pet."
Okay, anyway, so Hasan goes on to try and, like, basically accuse Nux of being a chomo, but he doesn't put it like that. He goes and uses the full, like, you know, P word and everything. But for the record, I think Nux is pretty funny, and he's always been really nice to me, so I don't know what this guy's talking about. Like, everyone hates him. Like, no, not really. And then he actually talks about Kirsha.
There's another VTuber being a white supremacist that made headlines. Yeah, I saw. And the only reason why I saw it is because apparently after that fun loser-ass VTuber got banned, immediately they were hitting the Hasan loves terrorism and he's not banned, so why can't I say that it was good that George Floyd got killed or some shit? And it's like, I don't know, maybe because you're a fucking gross little freak.
I love the, like, 5 seconds of silence, and then he's, like, laughing at what he says. But you know what's really crazy? Hasan says he's kind of familiar with the Kirsha stuff, the articles, the headlines, whatever, like, however he put it. And one of the journalists who went after Kirsha got exposed by people on the internet for advocating for the essay of women and also admitting that they even have chomo tendencies. If you're not familiar with the Kirsha stuff, by the way, Kirsha is a VTuber who has recently been on the receiving end of a massive harassment campaign and cancellation attempt from some corpo journalists and modern audience types. One of these journalists over at Vice made a big hit piece against Kirsha that was so terrible it amounted to nothing. And as mentioned, people actually dug into this journalist and saw the terrible things that they had actually said that were on the internet. And so Kirsha responded, and that article was eventually deleted, seemingly by higher-ups at Vice, but not just that one, because the managing editor of that person also put out an article going after Kirsha, and for some reason Leaflet, which is something I talked about a few days ago. Long story short, that article was also terrible and also ended up getting deleted. But wait, there's more. These people are so desperate that some random WordPress blog journalist actually made an article a few days ago going after Kirsha and trying to, like, associate her with literal far-right Nazi groups. And they even brought up myself and, once again, also Leaflet, but also Mama Oko and Rev Says Des. Check out this section where they say, "This is the most common on the outer layers of the radicalization onion, as Innuendo Studios describes it. Streamers like Kirsha, Leaflet, Mama Oko, Hirohei, Rev Says Des, and others can avoid legal liability by saying any of the harassment or slander done on their behalf aren't what they actually wanted, even though the claim is facetious. Streamers who sit in a deeper layer may have edgier, more openly hateful content, while still hiding behind the defense of calling it quote-unquote jokes." Oh yeah, Hirohei, that guy's so edgy. He calls people weirdo Twitter cops and says, like, people are acting lame when they are, or acting pathetic when they are. Isn't that so edgy, guys? That's so crazy. He must be, like, a far-right, white supremacist, whatever. By the way, I'm not a streamer either. Like, what the frick? What is this person even talking about? And you gotta see this. Right before that paragraph is this one that says, "The use of fans to engage in harassment and death threats is an established tactic of alt-right pundits and movement leaders. By publicly saying they oppose harassment, but doing nothing to disavow, they can remain legally above any actions the groups they lead commit. This approach is known as stochastic terrorism." And then, as mentioned, it goes into the paragraph that we read right before that, where they mention Kirsha, Leaflet, Mama Oko, myself, and Rev Says Des. In other words, like, trying to link us to, like, stochastic terrorism. And it's like, bro, all they really did was make themselves look like a complete nutcase. Also in that article, they're mad at Kirsha for threatening legal action against Vice, saying that's, like, something that a Nazi would do. I don't even know, man. I don't even know. I feel bad for that person. Like, I don't think they're doing okay. I think they're like kind of, sickly or whatever the word is. The desperation continues as back over on Twitter, people who have stood up for Kirsche are getting messages from other people that are essentially trying to intimidate them into disavowing Kirsche and other terminally online brain rot stuff like that. For example, we have this tweet that says, "This was sent to me while I was streaming, and it really hurts me because it's from someone I thought to be my friend. I know who I am, I know my values, and I stand for what I've said and for who I support. I won't let anyone silence me. Hashtag I stand with Foxu." So we can see the VTuber made that tweet. Akatsuki says, "Twitch allows terrorist propaganda being streamed daily on their platform, but bans someone for no reason other than a mass report scam. Amazon needs to get rid of the CEO and the entire moderation team ASAP before they destroy the platform." This referencing, I believe, Kirsche's 24-hour ban. And then, as mentioned, they got this DM that says, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Sorry, I'm just going to say Akatsuki again. "Akatsuki, please let me misunderstand this. Kirsche is very dangerous. It's not just a random ban. Please tell me you don't support them. For the record, all evidence would point to the ban once again only being a mere 24 hours and for reading like NSFW on stream. Not because she's very dangerous. But yeah, the full context is I think she was reading like a fan fiction that particular journalist I mentioned a moment ago was going after her had made. And that's why she got like a 24-hour temp ban. Let's go to the next image. "Kirsche is everything that means Narcy behavior. They are bigot as heck and are against every black person out there. They're saying very dirty stuff against George Floyd, for example. Don't tell me you support Nazis. Okay, since I was going through your Twitter, I decide to ban and block you. Hopefully you see the capital problematic with those people someday. Goodbye." What does ban and block even mean? This person's like having some headcanon power trip. Like, you didn't ban them, you just blocked them. This person would love to apparently have the power to just like ban people from something, whatever the case may be. That's what it sounds like to me, at least. And of course, there's no evidence of this other stuff too. Like, "Oh, Kirsche hates every black person, is a literal Nazi." Interestingly enough, one of the top responses here reads, "I already know who this person is because they did the same thing to me." For real? Did they try to force you to unfollow a VTuber they didn't like? "Yep, I don't like being policed, who I follow. Already lost a friend I consider close because they didn't like Rev. Only time I accept it is if the person is truly disgusting, not because of political preference. Sad I cared about them, but guess it's whatever." Then Akatsuki says, "I'm sorry to hear that. Me too. I hate when people try to police me. With that person was even reasonable when they told me to unfollow the other VTuber. I said that I would if what they said was true. But when I went to check, everything they said was a lie." VTuber Rosie Belnu has also been going through all this sort of stuff too. She says, "This is why it's hard to ever speak about anything. My side, quote unquote, is don't bully people. You can choose your side, but you can't corner people into being in your war. I'm assumed to be regurgitating someone else's opinion that's in a war I was never a part of. I've been constantly harassed with DMs on different platforms for over a week now. I want to be done. I'm going to keep posting as usual, but will try to share info when I need to make others aware. It's a lose-lose situation humoring this at all. Stay safe." Rosie including a number of DMs that someone sent her with a bunch of accusations towards Kirsche and no evidence for any of them. Kirsche responds saying, "I am sorry you're having to deal with people like this on my behalf, but I still thank you for having spoken out against the harassment I've been facing. Hopefully they will leave you alone instead of continuing the struggle session." And Rosie says, "You didn't force them to harass me at all, so please don't apologize. I hope I didn't imply it was you at fault for what someone else is saying. I did feel it was something after days of people being extremely irrational that I should just show an example of how nutty people have gotten. I appreciate your concern for me, though. These people constantly pick tactics that only make them look terrible to everyone else. Like in their little inner circles on Blue Sky or whatever, they're like, oh yeah, you sure showed them. But to 99% of people, probably more than 99% actually, who are looking at what happens, these people are just making themselves look like extremist freaks. I talked to Rosie briefly about this stuff, and I gotta say, Rosie seems like an extremely nice and kind person. And they're like trying to target her now too. Like I said, you guys are just making yourselves look so bad with all this stuff. As mentioned, Rosie also received a number of DMs with this person trying to like accuse Kirsche of things and guilt trip / intimidate Rosie into disavowing Kirsche. Let's take a look at this one. Otherwise, it seems like you are willfully ignorant to far-right extremism in order to implicitly support it. If you are far-right and chose to work with gamer subs but want to hide it, bold, then your best bet is ignoring this message once you read it. If you are not far-right, you will probably try to hear this out. If you are far-right, you'll reflexively ban and run away. when you've been so willing to be confrontational to anyone and everybody before my message on this same topic. This is in reference to Rosie putting out one of the most mild takes ever in response to VTuber Rin Penrose making a public statement saying that she doesn't want to be an affiliate of GamerSupps anymore because of who they associate with, which at the time that was going on was also the start of the harassment campaign against Kirsha. So it was very implied to be about Kirsha. And like I said, Rosie put out an extremely mild take, just basically saying that like it came off kind of like virtue signaling. I'm putting it in my own like paraphrasing now. But yeah, then Rosie gets messages like this from people that are trying to shame her for saying that. And like the phrasing here is so freaking manipulative. Oh, if you ignore what I'm saying, clearly you're far right. If you're not far right, you're going to hear me out. And like, what the frick, man? No one is obligated to respond to anyone in their DMs, especially when they're acting like a freaking terminally online weirdo. Like, come on, bro. She's not far right. She's far away. Staying far away from you. I know. Really clever. Round of applause for Hirohei. Another example of many, and there's plenty that we're not going to be talking about in this video. This is just like an overview of what's been going on. But hopefully you're familiar with the cat, aka cat in chat, aka cat Leante thing that we've been talking about here on the channel the last few days. But if not, if you don't know what that's about, it's fine too. You'll see what I'm getting at in a second. Because Rosie had responded to Alicia here and said, I'm sorry this happened. At this point, I feel like we just got to inform people she is grifting the VTuber drama, referring to Kat, after she used to do content creator advice on TikTok and found this to be more profitable, and that's the end goal. If it's for profit, she'll move on to something else if this doesn't get her traction. The reason I'm showing you this now is because Rosie got a response from this person who's like, oh, she's grifting, but not Kirsha? Cool. This is completely unrelated to Kirsha. This thing had nothing to do with Kirsha. These people still like gonna go freaking stalk Rosie's tweets and bring it up here. Again, how does this make you look good? It doesn't. You look freaking weird. So yeah, that's some of what's been going on lately. Let me know what you think about all this stuff in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in, and all the best to everyone out there. Stay safe, guys. A lot of crazies. My gosh. And if you enjoyed my coverage, please consider liking and subscribing. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend and a great week ahead, and I'll see you in the next one.